We are officially at the halfway mark for Star Wars: The Skeleton Crew, and I gotta say, when it comes to shows like this that I thoroughly enjoy, it's pretty sad when there's only 8 episodes and we're already halfway through after just a couple weeks. But even though I have enjoyed this show, I gotta say this mid-season finale honestly was kind of a dud and was definitely the weakest episode out of the bunch so far. So this episode essentially took us from the point where the gang interacted with Kim. They got the map of the old jewels of the New Republic, learning that At-Attin was part of these planets, and they immediately got coordinates to another planet called At-Akron. Well, what we found out was basically this was a dystopian version of At-Attin. It was a planet that was at war, and they had been at war for some time. Now, this was interesting to me because Kim, in the previous episode, had mentioned that all these planets had been destroyed other than At-Attin. When I heard destroyed, I pretty much figured that these planets were just gone, blown up, something like that. But it kind of seems like they were just in turmoil, or some of these planets have been destroyed from within, and they're really no longer a planet that is viable. Now, when Jod and the kids ended up on at Akron, they did come across a resistance group of rebels who are at war with another tribe that's on this planet. Now, what's very interesting in here is as these kids interacted with these rebels, you got to see these kids pretty much face war for the first time. They have never known what war was like. They missed the war, the Clone Wars, the Empire. They don't know anything about that other than what they've learned and what has been censored in class at school. And so to see them face war for the first time, honestly, was a pretty interesting concept. This episode really focused around Neil. And I did like that he called out the question of, why are we fighting in the first place? Why can't we just be all friends? Why can't we be nice? Obviously, this is a kid's very dumbed down perspective of what's going on, but it offers an interesting question after this whole franchise is surrounded by war and so much turmoil. But what was kind of funny to me was that we really didn't even see the other tribe. We saw them kind of come up against Jod when he was alone at the ship. But other than that, these kids really didn't experience any type of actual fighting. Other than that fake out when Jod showed up through the fog with all the Eopies and gave him back to the tribe. So honestly, not much happened in this episode. And I was kind of left disappointed because this show has had pretty good momentum. We've been building the mystery of what's going on at Attin. And I really expected more to happen. After they met with the rebels here in this episode, they did end up in the tower where there was some inscriptions from all the different planets and their coordinates. And so I'd imagine the rest of this show is going to end up being them jumping around to these different planets that are jewels of the old Republic and eventually try to find At-Attin, because the inscription for At-Attin was marked off. We did learn that SM-33, his old captain, commanded him to destroy that. And if anybody tries to find out what's going on, that he would destroy them. So we did get that interesting tease at the end where SM-33 tried to attack the kids, specifically Fern, after her commanding him to let her know what the information was. So it begs the question of why the captain of SM-33 wanted At-Attin to be hidden. Did he bury his treasure on there to try to hide it from the rest of the people? Is there actually treasure on At-Attin that we don't know about? Is the government of At-Attin trying to hide this from the rest of the people? Only time will tell. But honestly, not much was revealed here that made me feel like this show was moving in the pace that it needed to, with only 4 episodes left. And better yet, the pirates haven't been around since like 2 episodes ago. And I figured that they would be following them this whole show, that'd be having some conflict between Jod and his own crew. But we haven't got that yet. I'm assuming that's going to come out towards the end of the show. They're probably all going to end up on At-Attin, and they're all going to have this big battle, discover the treasure, et cetera, et cetera. I will say what this episode did for the show was have some nice character development for these kids. So Neil was the first one. Neil definitely had his moment where he overcame his fear and became braver, and he definitely tried to save the kids at the end, was SM-33. And then Fern, she's been this bossy, know-it-all little girl who's tried to lead the way. And when she came to the reality that she didn't really know what was going on, she broke down and she cried. And her and Wynn had a nice little moment there where she kind of admitted that Wynn should have been the captain. And these kids really bonded together and have a good friendship that's building off of this. We also got to see Jod, who's actually showing care for these kids now. And when he came back for these kids, Fern was really surprised that he cares for them. So I think this character development with these kids and with Jod is really going to be the focal point of the show, really going to be the crux at the end. Jod's obviously going to save them at the end because he's going to care for these kids. He's probably going to turn himself over. We're going to learn about his background and why he has force powers. But other than that, this episode was really just a filler, in my opinion. It reminded me of the old Clone Wars episodes where there was like little fillers here and there and just random side missions where they went off. That's exactly what this felt like, which honestly is no surprise with Dave Filoni being one of the executive producers. He is kind of notorious for having these little random episodes that I always was kind of frustrated by when I was just wanting to get to the main story. So looking forward to the next episode still. I think this show is fun. I don't think there's too much to think about. about. It's a fun Star Wars show. It doesn't make me mad like some of these other lore breaking shows. Looking at you, Acolyte. But at the end of the day, this is fun. I still think it's worth watching. Looking forward to see what happens. Jude Law is definitely a standout. So I'd definitely love to know what you think of this episode. So please comment below, like this video, and subscribe to our channel. And stay tuned for more Skeleton Crew reviews from us. But until next time, may the Force be with you.